Welcome to La Vida Rosa. I'm your host Pinky, and today we're going to be talking about Queen Charlotte of Bridgerton. So if you'd like to see more than just stay tuned, like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into this video. Okay, before we get into Queen Charlotte, because Queen Charlotte is more so of a prequel spin-off of Bridgerton, let me talk a little bit about Bridgerton. So I did watch Bridgerton when it first came out. I fell into the hype because everybody was loving it so much, and you know, everybody's watching it and talking about it. So I was like, okay, let me watch it, right? Honestly, I thought it was going to be right down my alley because I love like romance type of movies. Also, I thought it would be more so like Cinderella, the one with Brandy. There were black people and POC just integrated into the story. There wasn't a focus on race. It's almost like we are imagining as if, you know, discrimination did not exist and we just, were able to just be people and not judged off our skin color. And just to see how our people and people of different races would have looked, functioned in that time. Because when black people look back at that time, we're thinking about, we're in the servants' quarters, okay? We're not in the fabulous gowns. We're not with the fabulous jewelry. We don't have the titles. We don't have the access. We're the maids. We're the nannies. Let's not act like England didn't originate all that and bring it over to America. So before I started Bridgerton, I came in thinking, okay, finally we can enjoy seeing us in that time period without having the heaviness of that. When I did watch the show, I just feel like they told that line too much without actually addressing it. But on the show, it was like implied racism. I'm tiptoeing around the word because I don't want to get demonetized, but it was implied, like they had certain situations where you could tell that black people were getting the side eye in that way, but it was never really addressed. So that was very disappointing about season 1 to me. Also, I can't remember specifics because it's been a while since I watched it, but I just remember some of the most jacked up actions were made by the black characters. Like, even though it kind of humanized the character, I feel like it was kind of villainizing the black people a little bit. It's giving the same old, white woman, damsel in distress. We've seen that story over and over and over. And I was shocked because, Shonda Rhimes, she's pretty good with addressing race and things like that. I don't know. I didn't like it, y'all. Season 1 was a flop to me. Not to mention, it was so easy to figure out who Lady Whistledown was. I was over it midway through. Needless to say, when season 2 came out, I did not give it a chance at all. I still haven't seen season 2. Everybody says it's much better than season 1. And maybe after watching this, I might give it a chance because I actually liked Queen Charlotte. I was willing to give Queen Charlotte a chance because I saw that it was a black woman lead. I saw it was another black woman that was going to have a big role. And also, from watching season 1, I was very curious as to how Queen Charlotte got her position. Like, pretty much she was the boss. Especially since racial tension did exist in that realm. How did she get to the point where she's over everybody? I think they did a way better job addressing race. Obviously, I loved the wardrobe. Oh my goodness, the dresses were magnificent. Just how they presented the women. The hair, oh my goodness, the hair. Y'all know I love me a good afro. Okay? I loved her massive afro. And that crown, like, put me in that on my wedding day. Oh my goodness. And even just like the big wigs with the braids and like the natural hairstyles and just how it was adorned with all the jewels and just the pomp and circumstance, y'all. I loved it. I love seeing, black people as the upper crust and having, their titles, being royalty. Like, that was beautiful to watch. So in a way, I did kind of get a little taste of my fantasy, and we're going to get into the story. But even with her relationship with King George, I love how imperfect it was. Even though this is like a fairy tale type of show, I love how their love was not perfect. And, even though, she had some struggle in there, then I was like, okay, do we always have to struggle? Do we always have to struggle to be loved, right? I just love how we saw the two different perspectives and how they were battling against themselves and even against each other, and how they got to the point where they did truly see each other for who they really were. And even years down the line, how they interacted with each other. But we're going to get there. So first, I'm going to talk about Queen Charlotte, okay? Queen Charlotte, when we first meet her, she's only 17 years old, right? She's very independent, outspoken, and straightforward. She's the type of person that she's bold. She's going to say what's on her mind. You ain't never going to guess where you stand with her. You always going to know. When we first see her, she's very uncomfortable in this garb. She's very decked out in jewels and, you know, all this fabulous dress wearing corsets, but it's uncomfortable, right? She never really wanted this. She didn't want to get married. She didn't want to become a queen and leave her homeland. But her brother promised her to Britain. So they set them up to get married as an experiment, I guess, for interracial marriage. So their countries can, I wasn't paying attention to that. I ain't gonna lie, I wasn't really paying attention. Basically like the original Married at First Sight, because she wasn't even supposed to see him before they were gonna get married. He wasn't gonna see her either. And so obviously she was very scared and nervous. She thought he was going to be a book wolf. Like, she was like, you know, terrified because, you know, she didn't know what she was getting herself into. And honestly, this wasn't even her decision. Just watching this show and seeing the lack of autonomy that the women had back in the day, it just makes me so grateful that I'm born in the time period that I'm born in, because I would hate to have to do whatever a man told me to do just because I was promised to him at birth, or just because my brother or father decide they're just gonna marry me off just because, you know, because of, you know, business dealings. Like, oh my goodness, I feel like this show really held a magnifying glass to that and showed like how difficult it was for women back in the day. But I also loved when the women did manage to find their power and find their voice and found their way to, you know, take charge in certain situations, even though the man might get most of the credit. But I'm going off on a tangent at this point, mainly because of her skin color. She was not being welcomed with open arms by George's mother, and so she was trying to escape by climbing a wall. She literally was going to try to climb over the wall and escape. And George just so happened to catch her, and basically he instantly fell in love with her at first sight and won her over. You know, at least he was handsome. She didn't have no old Lord Dansbury. We're gonna get to him. At least she had something to look at, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of women during this time were not so lucky. And you know, they had a beautiful, glorious wedding. She looked amazing. But on their honeymoon night, she was completely thrown off by the fact that not only would they not be living in the same quarters, but he wouldn't even be spending the night with her for the honeymoon. And she really felt some type of way. So when they met each other in that courtyard, he told her, look, I'm just George. You know, I'm not the king when we're just together. I want you to get to know me as a person. So obviously she gave him some pushback. Whenever he said he wasn't going to be there for the honeymoon, he kind of put his foot down and yelled like, no. So we're seeing it from her perspective of how she took it. But it turns out that King George suffers from severe mental illness. The reason why he wanted to stay separated from Queen Charlotte is because he wanted to protect her. He didn't know what he was capable of. And honestly, he was ashamed of the fact that, you know, he couldn't control himself in certain instances. He was going through this crazy form of therapy that was literal torture. It really made me sad because it's so unfortunate that back in the day they didn't have the resources that we do today. Even a simple Google search. Like for me, I'm someone that deals with anxiety, and I've been able to combat that in many ways. Certain foods I could eat, certain vitamins I could take, you know what I'm saying, that are really making a real difference in my life. And it's just crazy that they don't have even access to that, let alone like a psychologist or someone that could prescribe medicine to them if they needed it. Just imagine how many people that were just written off as crazy or went on to be homeless or considered drunkards, when in actuality they have a chemical imbalance or something that could be treated medically, and their whole trajectory of their life will be totally different. And so that's just something that really, I don't know, I guess it hit close to home. Anywho, he was incapacitated half of the time, so he was keeping a long arm's distance from her. But he is the king, and he just got married, and they're supposed to be on their honeymoon, and they're supposed to be producing an heir. So how can you do that if you're not consummating your marriage, right? Eventually they find out that at least they have chemistry in that way, and on even days they would meet up and they would try to produce an heir. At some point she did happen to catch one of his episodes, right? But she already loved him. She already cared about him. She didn't allow that to drive her away from him. She told him, look, I want us to stay together. No more even and odd days. I want you every single night. He seemed like he was doing good. He decided that he wanted to stay with her, and he decided he wasn't going to be doing that torture therapy anymore. But the torture therapist ended up luring him back into the torture therapy sessions by telling him that Charlotte was pregnant. And so he wanted to be able to function and be normal as a husband and a father. So he subjected himself right back to that torture. During this time, Charlotte was very pregnant and lonely and, you know, longing for her husband because she did love and care about him. And so she really let a lot of time pass before she marched down to his quarters to see what was going on. Because, child, I would have been down there. Okay, I would have been popped up on him. And so she busts up in there and she sees that they torturing this man, and she just, what are y'all doing? She banished the man from the castle and told him, you better be lucky you ain't getting beheaded because I got the juice now. And basically she decided that she was gonna love him through his mental illness. And I'm just like, why not just see if y'all can find somebody else that could possibly help him, because he does need help. And so as time moves on, we don't really see this, but it just seems like his condition only got worse. And so she did just keep him in the other living quarters while basically taking over his duties. And I think it's a shame that this show is kind of like a mini series and we're not going to get like a season 2 or anything like that. And I think it's a shame because I feel like there's more story to be told. Like, I would love to see how it was for her taking over for him and how she got to this point. Like, yeah, we see the origin, but I feel like there's so much more depth that could be added to the story. When we see Queen Charlotte in present day and we see her go visit George, you know, he's very erratic. He's drawing on the walls like he did back in the day, and he's talking about the heavens. But it was so beautiful to see that she knows how to communicate with him, and she knew that, like, getting under the bed and lying on their back, come hide from the heavens with me, she knew that that was something that would bring him back. And he was like, you didn't go over the wall, and she's like, I didn't go over the wall. And, you know, just to see that they kind of went back in time in that moment, y'all, it was beautiful. I ain't gonna lie, I shed a tear. Like, that's the type of romance I love to see. Like, stuff that isn't necessarily perfect, but real. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure there are plenty of people that can relate to this love story. But I do have to mention, she's still trash, okay? She's still trash as a mother. She had these 15 children, right? And didn't have not one emotional connection to any one of them. I guess she said dealing with George is enough emotional stress, so let me disconnect from everybody else. She did not care about anything but getting an heir. She talked to them crazy, degraded them, demeaned them, insulted them, until she got what she wanted. Literally, just as mean as the scowl on her face. I enjoy that scowl. I'm not gonna lie. I love it. I love it. I love how her face is just stern, but you mean, like, she was mean and trifling to them children. I ain't gonna lie, okay? It seems like that's just how they treated kids back in the day. Also, I want to talk about Lady Danbury, and I'm so glad they gave us backstory on her because I really, really enjoyed her story as well, even though it was very sad because she had to be married to Lord Danbury. And if you look at Lord Danbury, he's just completely atrocious visually. let alone his behavior, okay? And I can say that because the actor that plays him doesn't actually look like that. You know, I would kind of feel bad if the man really did, but they did a good job of uglying him up. I'm climbing over the wall, honey. I'm getting up out of here. But she was literally promised to this man at 3 years old and raised from birth to serve his every need, and never once really got to explore her own interests or desires. You know, she did her duty, but she was definitely repulsed by him night after night. But what I did like about her is that she was so resourceful. She used his status to open doors for her, not only her, but, you know, the people in her community. It's crazy how Lord Danbury thought it was because of anything that he was doing, when really she was the one pulling all the strings behind the scenes, and he never gave her any credit for that. And then when he literally died on top of her, it was like ding dong, the witch is dead, okay? Because she was able to have more autonomy and make more decisions. Their position in society was at risk because they only really got their title because of the experiment, if I'm not mistaken. So with him passing away, her status was a little shaky. And so the other black people in the community was like, you need to figure this out because, you know, we hanging in the balance as well. She planted seeds in Charlotte so that, you know, she could help her and her people. She found a way to meet with certain people so that she could network and be able to keep her status. And I love that about her character. I also love the friendship that she developed with Charlotte. She became one of the only people that Charlotte could actually trust, because Charlotte was essentially alone. And so even though Lord Danbury did kind of use her in the beginning, once they established a friendship and Queen Charlotte came and visited her at her home and she helped her out in that way, I love how she gave her the real. But child, they were similar in so many ways, including being trash mothers, okay? I hate that. I hate that for them, but they definitely had that in common, child. She only wanted to use her son as a way to keep her social standing, and she even told him that, you know, she didn't really have a good relationship with her parents either. That really stuck out to me during the series, that these people did not like their children. After Lord Danbury is gone and buried, she starts having this secret tryst with Lady Violet's daddy, Lord Ledger. And it's crazy because his wife is racist, okay? Don't like black people. And he was cheating on her with a black woman. Isn't that always how it goes? I've heard that more than once. I'm not saying it's right to cheat. It sounds like there's a little karma going on there. So it was very secret, hush hush. Obviously, both of them would have gotten major trouble if anybody found out. But it's crazy how, you know, that happened years ago when Violet was a child. And then in present day, she finds out through the fact that her father made Lady Danbury a birthday hat, and he didn't make that for just anybody. So she kind of put two and two together, like, well, they ain't messing around. Obviously, she had no clue as a child, but as an adult, I'm like, she never confronted her about it, but it was almost like a we see each other moment. And it seems like that man was the only man to truly have her heart. She never remarried after Lord Danbury. Even though Charlotte's brother Adolphus was relentless with trying to get her hand in marriage, like he was doing everything he could. Really, he wasn't. Like, he was acting like he was. He was trying to act like she was going to get all these purses. But he really, like, he could have went a little harder if you ask me. You know, you a little attractive and you got a name or whatever, but I'm going to need for you to put in a little bit more work. She was not feeling it. And when he said he wanted another heir, meaning she was going to have to carry another child, she really wasn't here for a child. You know how they feel about kids. And so basically, she just finally got to live her life the way she wanted to. She got to live for herself. She got to make her own decisions. And I'm sure that's not the only tryst she had. So, you know, in a way, it was beautiful. You know what I'm saying? That she finally got to be in charge, because she hasn't had that from day one. Anyways, you guys, that's all I have to say about Queen Charlotte. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this show down below. Did you agree with me? Did you not agree with me? I'd love to hear your opinion. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Peace.